Well, good afternoon. Come on, I know lunches should be wearing off by now. All right. I have before me two balloons. They appear to be identical in shape, size, and stature. The difference in these balloons are not the characteristics that the eyes can see. Like some companies that start out on lean journeys, they reach a point and then it becomes internal. So which one of these companies is which one of these balloons is your company? How do you know which one it is? See, now you sound like consultants. As I release these balloons, you'll see what happens on most lean journeys. And then you have to hold those companies back. When I came here last year to speak, it was about a turnaround. Fayetteville was a struggling plant, and I got the call. I was in Lawton, Oklahoma. And they flew in, and Lawton is the flagship of Goodyear. And they said, Billy, we got an opportunity for you. And I was excited. I said, wow. I called my wife, and I called my mom. I said, babe, I got the call. I think I'm going to Akron, corporate headquarters. I got it. Carpet jet flies in. We go to a restaurant. It's Billy. We want you to go to Fayetteville, North Carolina. And I looked just like a 3-year-old. Because Fayetteville was running, it was struggling to compete. And I talked it over with my wife, and I flew down, I looked at the people, I looked at the systems, I looked at the tools, and I remember talking to one of our executives, and I said, this plan will turn around in 6 months. It's just not aligned. As we went through it, now we talk about sustainability. How do we go to the next level? How do I lead at the next level? How do I become a good teacher? By becoming a great student. That's what's changed. I am no one's boss. They can't call me mister, they can't call me sir. My name is Billy. That's what my mother named me, that's what I like to be called. And you'll see throughout my presentation, as we started to grow, here's our organization. It is a union facility. And you think about that, you think of conflict, disagreement. It's not the case. In our plant, it reminded me of an old joke that I heard. I'm from Texas. And our former president went home and he had his wife with him, and they stopped at a gas station. And they recognized the guy pumping the gas. It was Barbara Bush's high school sweetheart. And when they got back in the car, old George had a smirk on his face. He looked over. He says, hey, Barbara, just think about this. Had you married him, you'd have been married to a gas station attendant. Barbara, in her womanly way, says, no, George, you've clearly missed the point. Had I married him, he would have been the president of the United States of America. So it was all about never underestimate the people that help you get to where you are, because those are the people truly teaching you. If you look at a great leader, takes a hand, opens a mind, and touches a heart. That's it. How complicated is that? Do you listen? Do you go out? It's about the culture. The culture of an organization. It's the belly of the organization. I can bring all the tools in I like. I can put all the systems in. But if I don't address that culture, that behavioral piece of it, it all disintegrates. That's why when some leaders leave, the business crash. I've taken a different approach in Fayetteville. I'm more in the background than I am in the forefront. I work for them. They do not work for me. It was funny. I was going around talking about expectations. And I had a group, and my assistant was in the room, and I told her, I don't have a secretary. I have a business partner. And this was after 3 months, and I said, do the people know what the expectations are of this organization? Everybody, yes, yes. Then I went around individually. Do the people that report to you know what you expect from them? You know what my assistant looked at me and said? You know what my expectations are. Now think about that. I'm the plant manager. My assistant said, when I asked her, do the people work for you know what the expectations are? She says, yes, you know what my expectations are, Billy. You work for me. And that's a shift in paradigms. And if you look at the culture, look at the green up top. That leader's behavior. In a learning organization, that is critical. Do you walk the walk? Do you talk the talk? In our plant, we talk about operational excellence. The Shingo models used in Americana. They're branching out to China. And we talk about the tools, systems, and behaviors. But I'm going to talk about a little about the mindsets and behaviors. And you talk about the webinar, I'm going to go in more details on what's actually happening in our plant. I'm going to give you some visuals of what's happening in the plant. If you look at our plant right now, when we started our journey, we were making 32,000 tires a day. The market needed 36,000 tires a day. So if you look at that gap, we were missing, and it cost us $1 million, about $1,063,000 a day to run the facility. We were not competitive, and we were on the verge of distinction. So when we looked at the Shingo model, we looked at and how did it come into our plant, you must have all three. If you look at the picture there, if you don't have the operation systems, you get status quo. That's what happens. You'll achieve some level of success, but eventually you'll be that balloon. If you look at the management infrastructure, it's the headless chicken. Everybody's running around the whole organization doing their own thing. They're not aligned. The other one, if you look at mindsets and behaviors, capabilities, is unleashing the army. Just get out of the way. Because the organization takes over and has its own mindset of excellence that you can't stop. And then you get continuous improvement when they're linked together. You look at the mindsets, we talk about it, your feelings, your beliefs, perceptions. What motivates you? How do you tap into that? Behaviors, they're how you act. The visible consequences of your mindsets. Just think about that. You cannot see some of those things, those mindsets. They're embedded. When you look at the mindsets of a company, you need a business culture that's ready for change. How do you get there? We were not ready 2 years ago. The organization as a whole was not ready. Us as a leadership was fractured. We knew all the answers. My staff, myself. It was a rude awakening. We had to swallow what they call some humble pie as we started the journey. We talk about behaviors, we talk about their being visible. You can see them. And sometimes we ignore them. We walk by them. And then we start expecting what we get versus getting what we expect. And the minute you get at that point, again, you're like the balloon. The mindsets, they're hidden. They're the needs, what people need. You know what? Every day I come in, I walk the hallway, and I speak to everyone. I have a 2-foot rule. 2 feet. You get within 2 feet of me, I shake your hand. Every time. Hey, how are you doing? Good. All right. And when I walk the hall and I've got a concern on my face and I don't speak, you hear people coming out, hey, Billy, Billy, Billy. That's a need. That's a need that if I neglect it, it has negative consequences. When you look at values, again, you can't see those things. But people will show you. If you ask, they'll tell you. We started what's called a mirror exercise. And it's like a mall. We set up a gallery. And those that want more detailed information, I'll give it to you. But what it is we send people through and we talk about things that are normally characteristics of a union facility. Lack of trust, us versus them. Lack of communications, always fighting. So at that point, we wanted to get in the inside of the union to get a better understanding of what the union was doing. Now, this also happened in Lawton, which was a union-free facility. Here's what our goal. We wanted teamwork. We wanted to all work together. We wanted to get away from the us versus them. No one had the roadmap at that time. We were not confronting reality. So here's what happened. We did the mirror exercise. In the mirror exercise, you have to really look in the mirror, and sometimes you don't like what you see. But can you accept what you see? Now, here's where the presentation, in my opinion, transformed our whole company. We went to the experts. We listened to them. And the first thing I told them, I said, quit coming to me, treating me like the mother in the grocery store with a little baby. So we go to Walmart or something, or you go to the grocery store, the little mother walks up. What do we all do? Walk up to the baby carriage, look in and say what? Oh, it's so cute. You're so precious. And then walk away and say something totally different. Ooh, you see that baby? Right? Here's what I encourage them. Walk up to my baby carriage, look in and tell the truth. Dang! Billy, you got an ugly baby. At that point, I'm not going to the beauty contest. I'm going to get some barrettes or something. It's a different mindset. So what happened? We had to accept the ugly baby. Right? It's my baby. I love it. It'll grow up to be cute. And here's some of the things of the ugly baby. No trust. People didn't trust us. They felt they were being micromanaged. You can read through the list. And it was like abusive leadership. People were not buying in to the whole cultural change. Took on a different mindset. Here's what reality really was. Those were our ugly babies. Our machines were unpredictable. People had a good attitude. Roles and responsibilities were not defined. We've always done it this way. We're going to continue to do it this way. If you don't like it, go get my union steward. That was reality. So we set up the mirror exercise where they come through and there's boards set up about trust, communications, and we interview them and we interview our leaders and say, here's what we think reality is. And as they go through this maze of a mirror workshop, they get to write down brutal honesty. And I'm going to tell you, we were massacred. We were truly massacred. But what they gave us was a roadmap to success. We just had to listen. We had to embrace it. At that point, then we could see those things that are normally not seen. It was a paradigm shift. People could come in now and talk to us about things that had been buried under the rug for years. Leaders started to listen. Leaders became great students. We started working for the people, and they quit working for us. Everyone became a CEO in the company. What would happen before is you ask the operator, do you know what the expectations are? Yes. You want me to come to work, build a quality product, be safe, and save on cost? Worst answer you could get. And then we wanted them to walk in with their lunchbox and check their brain at the gate and keep moving. Just do what we tell you to do. And that's what they had done for years. Now, you bring your brain into the guardhouse with you. Now you're a CEO, you're running a tire machine. Our CEO came to visit the plant. He walked up to a tire builder and he says, tell me what your expectations are. Here's my trigger. I must build this amount of tires. I cannot scrap this many. Here's what my labor goals are. I work this many hours a week if I go over. Here's what it means to the budget. When he got done, the CEO was looking at him like, wow. This guy's truly running a business now, not a tire machine. And it changed the way we looked at business. It changed the way I did my job, because I truly became an enabler now instead of the person making all of the decisions. And as you look at some of our supervisors, look at the bottom one to the right. None of my bosses took time with me, and I made it. People were not teaching. People were not coaching because they quit listening. They quit being a leader. Levels of engagement. That's what started to transcend. As we look at when we started, we were all considered knuckleheads. All of us, holistically. Me included. Today, we're embarking on being overachievers. We're right in that middle right now. We moved beyond the middle, I'm sorry. Cheerful corporation, right? Pretty baby. Where do you want your people to be? This is an optimal level. Ideas come from the shop floor now. People are running the businesses. They're changing the way we operate. And it came from the mirror exercise where we became students. And it's evident, and I've had these my whole life. I was a high school track coach. And this was interesting about who teaches you. Your children. People in your immediate circle. That once we get to a certain status, we quit listening. I was coaching a high school track team. We were in Illinois, Freeport, Illinois. We were the Fighting Pretzels. Now imagine how tough can we be as the Fighting Pretzels, okay? We did good on a local scene. At that point, we was going into the state meet. We had won locally. Now the demographics of my team was there were 3 little white girls and 1 black girl. And so we go into the city of Chicago, and they get to the track. And they're looking around, and I noticed they're not warming up. So I walk over, and I said, Katie, what's wrong? And she looks, and she says, Coach, them black girls too fast. We can't run with them, Coach. She's ready to quit. I said, get in the car. We're going back to the room. I said, you go up to your room, come back down, and tell me what you're going to do to compete. Show me that you're willing to compete. So they go up to the little room, and it's funny. The little black girl French braids the little white girl's hair. They come downstairs looking like 3 little white black girls. And they think it's going to make them run faster. See, they misinterpreted, show me that you're going to run faster. So at that point, I get mad at her. Get back up to your room. I says, I've never taught you how to abandon this. You must touch the hearts of people as a leader. It'll move mountains. When they came downstairs, she says, Coach, can I get your rule book? I said, sure. She said, we want to change the order of the relay team. I'm like, she says, I want to go first. We're going to put the fastest girl first, the second fastest girl second, the third fastest girl third. Coach, we want to put the donkey on the end. I said, Katie, that doesn't make sense. The same 4 girls, the same distance equals the same place, last. Coach says, the assistant coach said, Billy, you always talked about trust. They listened to you this whole year. See, now here's your test as a leader. You got to listen to Katie. And I look at him, as hard as it was. I says, okay, Katie, you've got it. But you're going to embarrass that girl on the end. You're putting your teammate out there. She says, Coach, just trust us. They come down, they don't speak to me, they go to the thing. They line up, they sound the gun. Pow! We're off, we're winning, we should be. Katie's first. They make the second exchange, right? The quick change. Stick, boom. We're still out front. Third, boom. We're going into the anchor leg and we're dead even. And we've got the donkey on the end. Everybody else has thoroughbreds. And my girl's there waiting, she's serious and she's looking. And then when she hit her mark, my girl takes off. And she yells, stop! My girl puts her hand back, boom. She takes off. What do you think every other team did? When they realized what happened, we were 15 meters ahead of everybody, and they couldn't catch the donkey. So they go on and they win the race. So pretty soon, the announcer comes on, we need the head coach of Freeport High School to the protest booth. And I'm looking for Katie. I'm furious as a leader, as most leaders do, right? I'm ready to kill, right? It's bad. I'm going to kill. Katie, what were you thinking? Hold up, coach. You told us if we believe in ourselves, you'll find a way to win. She says, Coach, we didn't do nothing unethical, illegal, or immoral. Those are your three things, Coach. She says, Coach, if they didn't want us to say stop, they should have put it in the rule book. So I snatched my rule book, boom, I'm headed to the protest booth. Yes, sir. They said, sir, we're going to have to disqualify you. I said, for what? Because your team said stop. And it confused all the rest of the girls. What do you think I said? Wait a minute, if you want to say stop, you should have put it in the rule book. So next year, put it in the rule book. So we get back, they win, they make it to the finals. By this time, they get the program, and they realize they're seated number 49 out of 52 teams. That's how slow they really were. I never told them. Why? Because I would have handicapped them. I want you to remember, listen to the sequence of events that's happened, because it happened in most companies. She comes down the next day, they take their hair down, and she approaches me, and she says, Coach, we all want to talk to you now. I said, Coach, we're going back to the original order. Angie Drew's going back to first. I'm going back to last. She said, Coach, there's 3,000 people that don't think we belong here. There's 3,000 people that think we are fake, we're not legitimate, and it's not within us. She says, today we will show them. They get to the track, and I'm thinking, my poor children. The gun sounds, Angie Drew, the donkey is out so far, nobody's catching her. Baby Drew makes the handoff to Maria Ryan, and we're out there. We go to the third exchange. We're dropped back to fifth. We're on our way in our anchor. She gets the stick in fifth place. And as she came down that backstretch, moving those arms, you saw a grown man cry because he got third place overall. And as I sit there, the tears came down my eyes, and I still get emotional now. I looked at that other coach. I says, if you instill a culture where people believe that they can accomplish anything and you support them, it's untapped opportunities. All four of those young ladies went on to get Division I scholarships. They weren't the fastest, and I wasn't the best coach. Matter of fact, I was a plant manager. I was an area manager acting like a coach. And back then, if they let me tell it, the older I get, the better I was. We went on to continue. All those girls now, Katie's an attorney. They went on to do great things, and they remember that story. But it's all about continuous improvement. You know what they did to get third place? They cut the exchange zones down like a quick change. What they did was they moved Katie up to give her 10 extra meters to run of the donkey's 100 meters. And then on the anchor, they took another 10 and gave it to the next fastest person. They got creative. That's lean manufacturing. That's lean, that's operational excellence. There's no book that's going to completely tell you how to get there 100% of the time. And most of it's trial and error. And sometimes you must let people fail. You must let them fail to learn. That in itself builds trust. if you look at unleashing talent, that relay, that day, I unleashed talent. And from that point on, you'll never hear Billy in a meeting yelling, screaming, cursing, using profanity. I never do it. Now, we do have crucial conversations, okay? Other known as funeral talk. I'm going to let you know how I feel while you're living. I'm not going to wait till you're dead. You can't hear me then, good or bad. And it's not backwards blame, it's forward fanfare. I get this happened. What are we going to do to stop it from happening again? When you get there, you start unleashing talent. If you look at this diagram here, it starts out as the journey of continuous improvement starts, right? You get there, it's rocky, morale's bad. Then you get a step change. And then right there, you get to the pivotal point. It's going to be right where that behavioral effect. It's like those two balloons. Either you're going to go up or you're going to start the decline. And most transformations fail because of behaviors, not because of lack of tools or lack of systems. Now, they're important, they're critical, but you must get that behavioral part right. You must. And you cannot ignore poor behavior. You cannot. Those are your greatest mentors. Those are your greatest teachers. And I tell my manager, little Johnny theory. Little Johnny theory. Yeah, bus shows up in front of your house. The prettiest yard in the neighborhood. Says, do not walk on grass. And you tie a little dog up to the pole. But there's one on that bus that's going to try you. And everybody else is watching. Little Johnny jumps off the bus, and he walks up to that little old barking dog, and he doesn't do anything. And little Johnny just walks through your yard. What is everybody else going to do when they get off that bus? They're going to walk through your yard. Now, don't take this literally. Now, if little Johnny came through Billy's yard, that little dog going to grab a hold of that leg and go to shaking. And when little Johnny get to screaming, little Billy going to go the other way. And so is everybody else. And this is the way we should be going. And you know what? Occasionally I'll give the kids treats. Tell them thank you. When you look at our plant, we have what's called work simplification. This is our greatest classroom. And I'll show you one template that was done in January, and we do 500 of these a month. People come in and do these projects. It minimizes bureaucracy. It's not my presentation. Maximizes individual and team ownership. They own the process, and we just get out of the way. And then we do what's called an appreciation every week, every Tuesday and Thursday. They come into a conference room. And then when you do your first project, you see on my lapel, this is my goal. And I have to participate to get mine. And I achieved my goal, and I'm on my way to platinum. Matter of fact, I went in yesterday to do my 10th project, to report out. And then they get a shirt. A pen and a shirt is all it costs us. And then every month, we raffle off a set of tires. So we do a Publishers Clearinghouse. We show up at your machine with this big check that said, you got $1,000 worth of tires. We do that every month. I remember my boss saying, you want me to pay $5,000 for T-shirts? 5,000, 24 million. Approved. And so what happens now, this is the weekly review. You see people come in from the floor. They give the presentation. But here's what I like to show you as far as engagement. This year, we've had 618 people already get a bronze That means 618 people have already done one project. Of that, 325 advanced to silver, gold. 26 people this year have reported out on 12 projects or more. Here's where the game changer came. Initially, we just started with my staff. This is the scorecard. Everything in our plant's red, green. So we started with the top level, and we thought, wow, this is caught on. So then we went to a deeper level in the organization. This is part of their IPRs. They must do one project a month if you're in a leadership position. You must get on the floor and do the project. Okay? You must lead the project. Started out with just the core business. I'm going through tire assembly, component prep, curing, final finish. But here's where it got tricky. These are support organizations now. HR, finance. People on the shop floor didn't know those people. So they had to come out, i.e., engineering, facilities, new tire development. Continuous improvement is about a culture. Now every leader is a teacher. Here's what they said, we listened. We had to humble ourselves. Before engagement, that's what it looked like when you walk that shop floor. That's me right in the middle. I have to don that same suit and go out there and clean up. As a leader, I'm the student in that pack. I'm not the person holding the bullhorn. I'm the student. After engagement, that's what it looks like. Those B units look brand new today. I had nothing to do with it other than work for them. And working for them was giving them everything they needed to be successful. If you look at the offices before, there are silos. After, they asked me, Billy, can we redesign the whole office? It's not going to be pretty, but this is what we want. You got it. They told me, Billy, each one must teach one. The only constant in life, Billy, is change. That's their slogan in that business center. The only constant in life is change. And what happens? Sustainable results. Here's a project that a person, and there's many, I just pulled this one out. This is a blade recycling. So they must put this charter together. They have this template. And once they put the template together, and then here's their improvement analysis. So it's simple because we want the operators to fill it out. So they take this in their core group, and they fill out this chart, and they tell us what they did to improve. At that point, they talk about before. In this project, it was about blades. And this operator saw a blade that we were paying $7,000 to $5,000 for, and he saw us throw it away when we got done with it. So he literally went and got it out of the trash. Here's what it looked like before. He took it to the shop because he's empowered now, gave him his recommendation. They cut the blade down, resharpened it. That's what it looks like now. They tried it. It even cut better. $25,000 this person saved. That person's own initiative. Last year, we had 762 bronze. Year to date, we've already have 620. Talk about every leader as a teacher. Are you listening? Are you listening to your associates or not? One of my greatest mentors told me about my ugly baby, and I don't even know him today. I was interviewing with Pepsi Cola. I drew the president of the company. And as I went in the interview, I had good grades. I was on the dean's list. But I didn't know how to interview. No one had helped me with that part of it. I walked in. I had my head down. He said, how you doing, son? I said, hello. He says, have a seat. I sit down. He says, tell me something about my company. I says, you make soft drinks? He says, how diversified are we? I said, you put them in a can and a bottle? He says, what do we own? soft drinks. And then he says, tell me about my company, and I could not. When I got done, he said, son, that's the worst interview I've ever seen. The only thing you did right was not lie. So I'm going to invite you back. I couldn't wait to get out of his office. Now here's where the ugly baby came. The next week, I interviewed with Goodyear. I flew up to Illinois. I must have ironed that shirt 3 times, polished those shoes. I walked in that office. I went to shake his hand. He pulled his hand back. Have a seat. I sit down. He says, tell me something about my company. Click. Put my briefcase. I put a stack of brochures right on the corner of his desk. You're almost taken over by Goldsmith. Your stock price is done here. You know, it's your Volvo in China. Here's what's going on. He sits back and says, whoa. When I got done, he said, we're going to interview 10 other guys, 10 other people, and we'll make the decision in 2 weeks. This was a Thursday. Friday, I was flying back. They called my home. And my mother answered the phone in a southern voice. Hello. They said, this is Billy Taylor in. She says, no, he isn't. May I take a message? They said, well, yeah, this is Goodyear. Well, how did he do? Well, he did okay, but we like to talk to him. Well, he's going to talk it over me, so you might as well tell me. They said, well, ma'am, we like to offer him a job. She said, well, he'll take it. 23 years later, I'm still here. But what do you think would have happened had I not been in that first situation? That you walk by because you don't want to hurt people's feelings. I want you to think about that. You're hurting them more than you help them when you walk by that. You don't have to be rude. It's that crucial conversation. You know, one of my best friends is Sammy the janitor. When an executive comes to the plant today, they look for Sammy the janitor. And I think the world of Sammy. And Sammy just has a different approach. I'm no smarter, I'm no better. The cutest thing I ever seen was Sammy. One day I caught him under my desk. He was up there. I was like, Sammy, what are you doing? He says, you called me. I said, what? He said, I was just talking to my wife. I was looking in your shoes. I like those shoes they call Cole Haans. I told her, go get me some. And it was funny, he says, well, you always wear polos. I said, Sammy, why she get those shoes? Tell her to stop off at Ross's. They got them half price over there. He loves that he can come have coffee with me now. He tells me, my assistant, she says, if you leave, I want to retire. I can't go back to being an employee. Today, Billy, I run a business. That's her comment. And you know what happens whenever I travel now? My wife gets my itinerary. All of this stuff happens. And I just take it and drop my wife's package off. My expenses, put them in the receipt, and you come in, just sit them here. She's driving it. My life is so much easier. And one day she told me, she says, I want to drop by pizza. And I said, go ahead. And she says, well, Billy, you're a yes man. I said, never confuse my trust with being a yes man. I trust that you're going to do the right thing to run this business. And that tear came down her eyes. And she says, I get it. What happens when you do that? These type of results happen. We worked 14,000 hours to make 32,000 tires in 2009. Remember when I said, Last month, we made 37,900 tires, and we only worked 13,200 hours a day. You talk about real money. Bottom line, we used to make that tire for $32. Now we can make it for $25. That's $5 out of every tire. And we make 12 million tires a year. So you do the math. 5 times 12. And it wasn't because of Billy Taylor. Just because you have the title doesn't make you the boss. And just because you are the leader doesn't mean you're the teacher. If you're ever going to truly lead, and I'm going to say this strongly, you better become a good student. Thank you. Any questions?